Monday, August 3rd, 2020. We've made it to August. That's amazing. Little update on the studio. Made some progress this weekend, getting everything set up. Got my desk set up. It's a adjustable desk, so I can lower it and raise it. I also got a nice little, standing pad down there so I can stand up while I work. It's a bad idea to sit for 8 to 10 hours a day. My drawing area is set up, and cubes, drawing supplies. Eventually, I'm gonna paint a mural on this wall up here. Something that would make a nice backdrop for doing YouTube videos. This is from one of our old studio mates, Mark Watson, who did a great job of setting up this studio. I like all the little details that he put into making this a nice place. Originally, they used the portion in the other room over here for teaching figure drawing classes and workshops. But since we're in the middle of a pandemic, not really a good time to teach classes in person. But in the meantime, this is my setup right now. It's always exciting moving into a new studio space. It's always full of so much potential and excitement, and just, it rejuvenates your creativity and stuff. So I'm excited to get going with all of this. I just want to point out how surreal it was clearing out my cubicle from Warner Brothers a few weeks ago and finding this calendar on the wall with the last day that we were all in the office. It's pretty eerie. It is Wednesday, August 5th. Still making progress with getting the studio ready. It feels weird making these kind of updates though. This world, man. Look at my studio. It's all cool and stuff when it feels like the world's falling apart. Oh my gosh. But part of the reason I'm doing these videos is because there's just so much negativity out right now and so much just not cool in the world. It reminds me of the Never-Ending Story, where if you focus so much on the nothing, it starts to consume you and you start to sink into the swamp of sadness. That's where we all are right now as a society. You can't feel bad enough to make something not bad. You can't feel sad enough to make something not sad. And rage, anger, it doesn't make things less angry. I mean, there's such a thing as righteous indignation, where there's an injustice and you have to speak out, you have to say when something is wrong. But just being outraged all the time about everything is not good for your soul, it's not good for society. So yeah, studio's coming along really great. All right, it is Thursday, August 6th, 2020, and yeah, I feel like I'm slowly getting the hang of the vlog thing. I know it's gonna take a while. I know when I first started YouTube, it took me about 30 videos before I figured out what I was doing and what people were interested in, and I think vlogging's kind of similar. It's dark in here. So one piece of advice I learned from the studio is, if you work at a computer all the time and you have overhead lights, these overhead lights are really bright and they will give you the worst headaches if you try and work all day at a computer. I bought these lamps like this, just cheap lamps. Oh, it's too bright. Here's another one, and then one here. I put a light behind, bouncing against the wall behind my Cintiq and behind my computer. And what that does is it balances out the light between your monitor and what's behind it so that your peripherals don't get tired all the time from all the brightness. Yeah, I learned that from my office mate, Jay Schultz, working on Wizard of Oz a few years ago. It's definitely made a difference. It's nice though, it gives it a much more intimate feel when you're working. You can focus more, I think. That said though, the lighting needs for working on a computer are much different from making a video, so hence more light. It's so interesting driving around this old town, 'cause it seems like a lot of stuff has changed. There's like whole new neighborhoods, whole new shopping centers. Sometimes it feels like I'm driving through Dallas or Colorado or something, the way that the shopping centers are set up. But then I drive through other parts of town and it still feels like a dusty old cow town with cotton gins and oil rigs and water towers and windmills. Of course, the windmills now are a lot bigger and taller. Now that I'm getting older, I've been reflecting a lot on like what I miss in life, what I wish I'd taken more time to appreciate. It's interesting, and it's stuff that I didn't expect. Like one small story is I've been thinking a lot about lightning bugs lately. I don't know why they keep popping up, but I remember when I was a kid, I was probably 7 or 8 years old and living in Garland, Texas, and a hot summer night and going out to play with my friends, and there was just lightning bugs everywhere, just floating, glowing. And I remember catching them in jars and chasing them around, and them landing on you, landing on your hands, and then flittering and glowing, and just magical. And I remember as a kid thinking, oh, I can't wait to see that again. When am I gonna see lightning bugs again? And it's been 30 years, maybe 32 years, and I've never seen another lightning bug. I hope that I will, at some point in my life, but I kind of took it for granted that that sort of magical feeling was always going to be there, that I was going to always experience it. But that's just like one example, like there's a lot of things like that where you experience something once in your life and you think it's just going to last, but it really is just once. It's making me want to embrace that more in everything that I do. One of the things I'm known for in my hometown is I started a sketch club here a long time ago, 2006, and I ran it for 6 years, maybe 5 or 6 years. And we had a genuine impact on the community. I helped hundreds of artists, and it led to us doing all kinds of classes and workshops and after school programs and figure drawing groups and comic book conventions. And before that, none of that stuff existed here. I mean, there was figure drawing groups, but it was like different. But like comic conventions, there were a few, but they were so rare. And they were definitely not focused on creators at all. It was like basically bringing in a celebrity and getting to meet them, that kind of thing. But I had a heart for community and helping people and creating opportunities for other people. And it was my way of doing it as a real world example. And part of that came from, if you watched my old sketchbook videos on my main channel, seeing where I started out as a creator, I did not have so much talent in the drawing realm and talent in the other areas. I was definitely driven and passionate, but the idea of like selling stuff was ugh. And since, this town that I live in Lubbock, it's so, let's face it, Texas is huge. You could drive all day and still be in Texas. The part of the state that we're in is so far removed. The nearest big city is like 6 hours away, like Dallas, Texas. That's a long way to drive. And then San Antonio's like 7 hours, and Austin's like 8 hours, and Houston's like 12 hours. It's a big state. And so for me to have opportunities as a comic book artist, I had to drive a long way to go get it. I promised myself in my young and dumb years that when I got good and successful, I was gonna come back home and create those opportunities for other people so that they wouldn't have to drive, hundreds of miles to go learn how to draw comics or sell their comic books. And it worked. It worked really well. The reason it worked well was I had done it wrong for like 10 years before. I had tried all kinds of things to build a community, but they were all ego-based, meaning I needed people to respect me and appreciate me for all the work I was doing. And the funny thing about wanting something is the more you want it, the less people want to give it to you. Especially if you need it, if you like have this visceral internal need for something, people are just kind of repulsed by it. They're like, oh, well, good luck with that. And in the first 10 years of my career here in town, I did all kinds of stuff. You know, I started comic jams where we would get together at a bar and get a bunch of artists together and draw and get drunk and make fun of each other. And that was fun, but it was also a lot of chaos and a lot of drama because my ego was heavily involved in all of that. And studios too. This is not my first studio. I've had, we were doing the count the other day, and Brandon and I have shared, this is our 5th or 6th studio together. You know, our first one was right out of college, and made a lot of mistakes. Almost all of those mistakes were because of ego, because it had to be my way or the highway, because I needed validation and respect, I needed appreciation, all of those things that, like, the more you want it, the less you're gonna get it. But the irony is that we would run into people years later, like, you know, 6, 7, 8 years later. They were in our early studios or went to those comic jams, and they would tell me, like, that was the best time of their life. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Why was that the best time of your life? But I get it, you know, it was special, it was fun. You know, we were just kids pretending like we knew what we were doing. But to me, it was not, I knew that we could be better. And I knew that I could be better. And so when we decided to start the sketch clubs here in town and the comic conventions, we decided we wanted to do it on purpose. Like, if it was only gonna last for 1 year, we wanted it to be a really good year. And we wanted it to be a year that was worth people remembering, worth people talking about, you know, for the rest of their lives. Not like those, not like the early comic studios where it was like, what are you talking about? We did nothing. We just sat around playing video games and telling Monty Python jokes. But by the time that I started the sketch club, I was really, really working on eliminating or at least taming my own ego, removing myself from the equation, eliminating my need for validation and respect and appreciation. What happens when you're able to remove yourself and just make yourself available for others, to help others, it's like the universe conspires to work on your behalf. And that's exactly what happened. It's like people could see this guy's not in it for himself. He's in it to build something for others, for a greater good, for a higher good. And they were drawn to it. And people were throwing opportunities our way. We were getting all kinds of press coverage. We ended up getting, like, featured on a state syndicated TV show called Texas Country Reporter. We ended up on the front page of the newspaper, and all kinds of donations and volunteers, and it was incredible. And it couldn't have been farther from my experience the first 10 years of my career. And I guess the reason I'm sharing this is because I've been thinking a lot about how those two things are connected. The lightning bugs, the rare moments of magic, and the absence of ego. How those two things are kind of related to each other, you know? Getting yourself out of the way makes space available for magic to happen. I'm kind of realizing this today as I'm talking right now to you. I mean, I've known it in the past, but it's easy to forget, you know, especially if you never actually put it into words. You know, if it's an instinctual thing, not like a rule that you follow and apply to your daily life. So all this is to say, I'm trying to learn how to make myself available to you and to the world, and to keep my ego out of it and see where it goes. I guess only time will tell how well I'm able to do that. All right, that's it. I hope you are having a good week, and I hope that you're hanging in there, and I hope that you find some way today to keep smiling.